So the narrative is going to be concerning the Jamaal Bowman loss last night for his congressional seat is that he lost due to the lots of millions of dollars from pro-Israel lobby forces and organizations that poured into that congressional race to defeat him. But that's not the real reason why. Well, I'll put it this way. That's not the only reason why Jamaal Bowman lost his re-election fight in the Democratic primary on yesterday in New York. And here's 6 lessons that I think that the left, post Jamaal Bowman loss, needs to concentrate on and recognize to try to preserve other members who are running this year, but also as an instructional video for what needs to happen and for the rest of 2024 and really for the next 2 to 4 years within the progressive movement. I'm speaking as a disclaimer as a progressive, and so please take these comments as constructive criticism. Number 1, performative left antics with Democrats don't work like performative right antics do with Republicans. Yes, Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, they can do performative things. They can do outright crazy things on the floor of the House. They can do things in the community. They can do things on social media. They can do things in front of their CPAC and other places that Democrats just can't do. And the results are exactly that. Jamaal Bowman has spent his time in Congress making symbolic votes, statements. There's even a video of him arguing with Marjorie Taylor Greene outside the Capitol, having crazy debates with others, foul language, bullhorns, performative. Democrats, particularly in New York, want to see results. And performative theater in politics just doesn't cut it for Democrats as it is and as it does for Republicans. The second thing I think the left needs to learn from this post-Bowman loss is voters value results over rhetoric and dogma and statement votes. And Jamaal Bowman engaged in all of the above, from the rhetoric of progressive politics versus the money system and, you know, the corporatists and all the buzz phrases and buzzwords that get millennials and Gen Z hyped up and in a way that makes you want to challenge the system and tear the system down and apart and rip up institutions and build them up from the beginning. The tone of revolution, right, and dogma related to that. And then doing statement votes like supporting the Biden plan that included lots of increased domestic spending related to the infrastructure bill that we knew was not going to pass. Senator Manchin was the key vote in the Senate, and in negotiating with the president, he had to allow those investments in child care and other things off the side to secure a vote. It's called compromise. It's called getting 50% of the loaf when you're shooting for 100%. And in some kind of way, this zero sum of compromise and working together to get some end, to get some result, to get some kind of victory is not enough for progressives like Jamaal Bowman, who then voted against that particular bill because it didn't contain everything that we all wanted, but it contained something that would benefit your district. And much like Republicans that we criticize who will vote against the bill, like the infrastructure bill, and then go back to their home districts when a dam is being built or a bridge is being fixed or a road is being developed and paved and lengthened, they go to the ribbon cutting and cut the ribbon and say, yeah, I support that, when they didn't vote for it. We're almost doing the same thing, progressives, much like a Jamaal Bowman, by advocating for something, not getting what we want, and picking up our toys and walking away from the system because we didn't get 100%, or acting like 50% or 60% is like selling out. And the results are clear. That vote, that statement vote, cost him because people who are Democrats within his district wanted him to stand beside the president and wanted him to support something that would benefit their lives. So it's the zero summing of America that progressives are participating in that's going to lead to the downfall of our movement. The third thing I'll say is the left must still do constituent work. Folks, I speak to this point based on personal experience. I used to be a city council person, city of Newark, New Jersey. Many of you know that. And I was someone who fought hard on progressive issues. I was the leader of pay-to-play reform in the city of Newark. I was the lead council person to bring a consent decree from the U.S. Attorney General's office on police brutality in the city of Newark. At that time, the only city councilman on the city council of 9 that advocated it when the feds came in to talk to folks about those reforms. I was the first council person, the only council person they spoke to at that time, along with the ACLU and People's Organization for Progress. Shout out to Lawrence Ham. I stood for ethics reform. I stood for marriage equality in the state of New Jersey. I stood shoulder to shoulder with all reform efforts to try to reform government against the machine politicians that existed in New Jersey and still do to a large extent this year. But I also help people get housing in my district. I also help people get jobs. I also passed legislation to make sure that any $2 million project that happened in my city had to have Newark Apprentice as part of it in terms of working on those projects. I didn't drive a city car. I was a full-time councilman in a part-time position. So I was all about reform. I was all about the big issues, the big ticket issues, the things I should have been as a progressive. But I also made sure that I was at every neighborhood association meeting. I made sure I was at the senior buildings. I made sure that I was getting people housing and providing jobs. And what was interesting to hear were voters who were saying that they saw the county executive, Latimer, 2 or 3 times a week and had not seen Congressman Jamaal Bowman in 3 years. And so even as we stand on big stages and make big speeches and talk about big issues, which we should, we have to remember that constituency work is the hallmark of any elected official worth his salt. And that seemed to be lacking, and that has nothing to do with Gaza. That has nothing to do with Israel. That has everything to do with Jamaal Bowman and his failure to do his job in the way that his constituents wanted him to do it. The fourth thing I think we must remember as progressives in terms of our lessons that we need to learn from this post-Bowman loss is candidates must be likable. Let me say that again. Candidates must be likable. I can remember a hearing on education where a young lady was testifying, African-American woman in her 20s, recently graduated from college, who stated that school choice was what got her out of a bad school into a good school in a distressed community that paved the way to her going to college and being successful as she was right there. Now, we all know, and if you don't know, Jamaal Bowman was a traditional district school principal, middle school teacher, principal, who was very anti-charter school, very anti-school choice. And that's fine. I don't think any problem with that. I don't have any problem with any progressives who disagree with me on that particular issue, even as I see school choice as being a progressive issue. But more on that later, I digress. But he really insulted this girl by saying, well, you know, I went to school in this particular community and I did pretty well for myself. I think, you know, I did better than I think maybe you did in your life. And I'm paraphrasing here, but it was to that extent. Where do you get off insulting a young African-American woman about a success story that we should all be clapping for? We should all be applauding. We should all be saying excellent and complimenting her, as many people on the right and the left, on the Republican and Democrat side during that hearing did to her and said to her that they were proud of her, regardless of where you stood on the issue of school choice. But he personalized it in a very odd way that was very insulting and very just unlikable. If you remember, the last few rallies and last debates that you've seen him in, the foul language that he was using. You're an elected official. You're a former principal of a school, for goodness sakes. There are young people who are watching you and looking at you as a model. And people can say, well, it's just colorful language. It matters. Everything matters when you're in the spotlight and you're an elected official representing communities that need role models like you. And you have an opportunity to lead them. And the likability issue is probably why he had issues with the pulling of the fire alarm and why he was met so sternly. There was no great rush of Democrat Congress people to run to his district to save Jamaal Bowman. Why is that? There was not a rush of even progressives that ran to the district to save Jamaal Bowman. Indeed, Mondaire Jones, who was a part of the squad, had a better relationship with George Latimer, the person who beat Jamaal Bowman last night. That's no haphazard thing. It just doesn't happen. Real relationships require likability, require compromise, and working together. And there seemed to be a longer history with local electeds, local polls, community people, people of color even in elected office, and George Latimer, the county executive, than there was with Jamaal Bowman. And so our candidates, progressive folks, have to be likable. The fifth thing I'll say is that we have a divided house, people. Progressives have a divided house. You know, when people made a big thing about Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Bernie Sanders coming to stump in the last few hours, last few days in New York on behalf of Jamaal Bowman. But what they didn't talk about was the protesting that Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders received from other progressive people within our lifetime. Another progressive pro-Palestinian organization that wasn't there to support Jamaal Bowman, who had put his political career on the line, supporting them and their issue. They weren't there to knock on doors. They weren't there to hold signs up at this rally. They weren't there to help one of their own get reelected. They were there to protest Ocasio-Cortez. Not because she's not on their side on the issue, but mainly because she supports Joe Biden for president. As if not supporting Joe Biden for president, if you're a progressive pro-Palestinian person, that the alternative of Donald Trump is a better option for you. Or even Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a better option for you. So progressives, we have to stop being a divided house and fighting amongst each other if we plan on winning in electoral politics. The sixth thing I'll say is that voters want pragmatic progressives. I used to pat myself on the back for trying to be a progressive who fought for the things that I knew could get done, knew that we could advocate and organize people around, that we knew we could get past. I often, one of my favorite heroes is Harvey Milk. Now, Harvey Milk, councilman from San Francisco, tragically assassinated many years ago, used to fight for, obviously, the big issue, right, about his orientation and the like, at a time when that wasn't popular. But he fought for little things, right? He fought for things that he knew he had the votes for, right? And he didn't put up things that, I'm going to die on this hill, and if I'm the only one voting for it, it's, 9-1, I'll die on this hill. Hey, he said, you know what? He compromised. He worked behind the scenes. That didn't make him any less of a progressive. It made him a pragmatist. It made him seem like a guy who actually understands politics and how it works. And oftentimes, that's what voters want from us. They want us to stand up with them. They want us on the rally with them. They want us to have the bullhorns and be part of the strikes that are out there. But they elect us to get things done. And it seems to be on the right and the left, but I'm only talking to the left here, that we have a preoccupation with just being right. We have a preoccupation with just being zero sum. If you're not here, then you're against us. If you're not getting 100% of it, then it's not worth getting 60% of it. And somewhere along the line, the constituents in Jamaal Bowman's district got fed up, got tired of just the rhetoric, got tired of just the statement votes, got tired of the bully pulpit, got tired of standing on, a foundation of just sloganeering and bumper stickers. They wanted results, and they wanted to make sure that things that they wanted from the congressman, the bacon to be brought home, was indeed brought home. And they saw George Latimer as somebody, as a county executive who had delivered on things that he had said he was going to do for the county. And that made a vote for him more plausible than Jamaal Bowman. Last two things I want to say is the Daily Cause, and shout out to Daily Cause. It's a progressive platform, social media platform that gives constructive criticism to fellow progressives. And I think in that vein, they are different than some of the other progressive platforms that are out there. And they gave 3 ground rules to wrap this whole thing up as part of the 6 things that I gave initially. First thing they said was, if you have public support, do politics. The second thing is, though, if you don't have public support, do advocacy to build public support. And that's seemingly what Jamaal Bowman did not understand, did not do, did not work in. Because obviously, the constituents in his district didn't follow him. And to be a leader, you need honest-to-God followers. The last thing I'll say is, this is another direct quote from the same coverage about Jamaal Bowman's race. It says, quote, "Our political system has degenerated into an ungovernable mess where people think screaming and threatening is an effective way to influence policy and politics. And Daily Kos has always promoted a programmatic politics in which we build public support before demanding our elected officials take on contentious issues. It does no good to force elected allies to cast futile votes that will hurt their chances of being reelected and our chances of building political power to create lasting change." Folks, progressives, and others who are on the sidelines looking on at this, Jamaal Bowman didn't just lose because of Jewish supporting organizations and the money that they brought into a campaign. That was certainly a major portion of it. But Jamaal Bowman, in a lot of ways, had already lost the seat that he sought to be reelected to by his own failures, his own dropping of the ball, and his own mismanaging of the opportunity to lead the hundreds of thousands of residents within his congressional district. And I suffice it to say is that it might have been closer if that money had not entered into the realm of that particular race. But I think based on the 6 things that I pointed out to you and some of the things that Daily Kos and even the New York Times has pointed out, the loss would have happened anyway. It just may have been at a smaller margin. But tell me what you think. Subscribe and like here at Curious Formula. We're building it as we fly. In July, we're going to bring on a whole new team to really professionalize it. But until then, we'll do these kind of videos and we'll do lives here. Tomorrow night, we will be here. We will be doing a live regarding the debate. The first of, well, it's the only debate scheduled right now between the great Donald Trump and the rambunctious Joseph Biden. First debate tomorrow night. Be here. Listen to us live. We'll have live responses as we go through, as we listen together. And we'll have commentary throughout, before and after. Stay curious. Remember, think. It ain't illegal yet.